Our last grade lesson, we just learned about Pangea. Now we're going to continue on after that first mountain range was
formed.
Also in those days, many kinds of plants were growing on Earth's land, especially a certain kind of green leafy plant called a fern. Huge ferns grew in moist, shady areas nowadays called swamps. Each fern made special kind of seeds called spores, and each spore could grow into another fern. Ferns became so plentiful that an enormous fern forest sprang up all over the land. Today, ferns still grow in forests and gardens and in people's homes as house plants.
Yep,
And
so
we
there's
can
actually
see
one.
real.
Yeah, right here on the ground is an example of a fern. I'm not going to pick it because I want it to keep growing, but you guys can observe those all around today as soon as we're done with this lesson.
And when you go home, look around. Notice that ferns, when they grow, they do start to spread out and grow in bunches.
My
don't
mom's
they?
got a whole bunch of them in a
Because of their
flower garden.
spores.
My mom had a lot.
Fern forests were very important to the earth. When the fern forest got old, it died. And then another fern forest grew up over top of the old one. Are you wondering why they're important? Well, over time, layers and layers of dead ferns created layers and layers of rich material for new plants to grow in. This rich material is called soil. Without soil, made by the ferns and other dying plants, the Earth's surface would just be bare rock. Over a long time, as more and more dead layers of ferns piled up, the ferns in the bottom layers became so packed together that they turned into a type of black rock. This black rock, called coal, is something many people today burn for heating and energy. Around the time that ferns started growing, another splendid new creature appeared on Earth's land. This animal was an amphibian that had gradually stopped living in the ocean. Maybe this creature liked being more dry than being more wet. Over time, the creature lost its gills and could no longer breathe underwater. This creature was a vertebrate, and it laid eggs. It developed a dry, rough, thick skin, and it liked to lie around in the sun, getting warm. This creature is nowadays called a
Dinosaur.
reptile.
A reptile.
Reptiles thrived on Earth, and as soon there were many different types of reptiles. There were so many reptiles that nowadays this time is known as the Age of Reptiles. Then a very strange thing happened. Some reptiles began to grow and grow and grow until they became gigantic. Picturing this? Some grew as tall as a 5-story building and as long as 3 buses put together. These gigantic reptiles were so heavy that the ground must have shook when they walked. They had long, powerful tails, which helped them to balance. If attacked by another animal, these gigantic reptiles also used their tails as weapons. These gigantic reptiles had long necks, which helped them reach way up to eat the leaves at the top of the trees. These gigantic reptiles are called
Dinosaurs.
Yes, dinosaurs evolved from reptiles. Some dinosaurs walked on 4 legs, some on 2 legs, and some even had wings and flew in the air. Some ate plants, others ate amphibians or smaller reptiles. Hundreds of different types of dinosaurs developed. Dinosaur bones, skeletons, teeth, and fossils have been found buried in the Earth's rock over the world and can be seen today in museums. Dinosaurs ruled the land of the Earth for millions of years. Did you hear that? Millions of years. But then they disappeared, never to be seen again. Scientists nowadays have different ideas about what made dinosaurs become extinct. Many scientists believe that the great giant meteorite, a rock from outer space, fell onto the Earth. The enormous crash of the meteorite would have created a large amount of dust in the Earth's atmosphere. The dust would have changed the Earth's weather by blocking the light from the sun. When sunlight couldn't reach the Earth's plants, many of them died. Then many of the animals that depended on the plants also died because there were no plants for them to eat. Then many of the animals that depended on eating those animals also died because there were no animals to eat. Some scientists believe that only the animals that ate rotting plants survived this time when so many animals and plants became extinct. Even though so many animals and plants died, life continued on Earth. Some animals and plants did survive, and some new ones did develop. One kind of new plant that started to grow was a tree that had needle-shaped leaves and produced seed-filled cones. Nowadays, these kinds of trees are called conifers. Do you see them?
Can you guys look around? Do you see
There's
any
one right
conifers?
there.
Yeah, there's some little ones. I saw
There's a little one
in
right
front of
here. There's a tiny
Yep,
little
there's a tiny
conifer.
one.
New ones growing all the time, right? Conifers still exist all over the world today. Some examples are pine trees, fir, cedar, and spruce trees. In some parts of the world today, people decorate conifers with lights for special celebrations.
Christmas.
Another new and very beautiful kind of plant that began to appear on Earth had colorful blossoms called flowers. These flowers attracted insects, especially glorious new winged insects called butterflies. The butterflies and other insects carried pollen, the powder produced by flowers, from one flower to another. Sometimes the wind blew the pollen from one flower to another. Plants that received a pollen from other plants could now make a new plant. Soon there were many, many kinds of flowering plants. Nowadays, flowering plants are the most plentiful plants on Earth. Flowering plants make the world more beautiful, and many produce food, such as fruits and nuts. And that's where we'll stop today.